So I remember you saying,
yeah, I will.
it's very Portland,
I will let Nick know.
Yes,
Okay,
it is.
that toward the end of the shift,
Yes,
because
it
he's on
is.
shift till 7.
Right.
Just get up toward the end, between 5 and 7, just be monitoring that stop sign. Yeah, because we had somebody
Mr.
come
Young?
to the council meeting, we just need to get there.
Mr. Young, hello. Did you want to speak?
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
Okay,
Anna, do you have
before we
anything
get
to say?
started this evening, we have City Manager Ray Young.
Yes, before you start the meeting, Anna and my granddaughter and I came to thank you all for your service to the city. This is Volunteer for the City thank you card. So we just want to thank you so much for the time you put in. The salary is low, but your time is valuable. And Randy, the Mayor, Laura, and I just want to thank you all for the time you spend here doing this work, especially with the Planning Commission, where you guys are more than just advisors. You're actually making legal decisions. And we appreciate the time you have to spend to analyze all the information, to review all of the stuff that staff gives you, and make real important decisions. We just want to thank you so much. It's just a token of our thank you. And I have cards of thank you for each one of you who are here and the other ones that we're going to mail. Now, would you take this one over to the man over there with the blue shirt and glasses? You see him over there with the glasses? I want to take them over there to him. Oh, wait, no, wrong one. This one goes to the man with glasses. Get that right. That's for him, very good.
Thank you very much.
And the lady over here in the purple flowered shirt, would you take that to her?
This is special delivery.
It is special delivery and a special delivery because she wanted to make sure you felt appreciated tonight. And then this one goes to the man right there in the burgundy, purple, dark mauve shirt. whatever you think it's called, and you can take it over there to him. You can go all the way around if you want. And I will tell you, Zach, you already got one last week at Parks Advisory Committee.
I did.
We love you, but not twice as much as we love everybody else.
I appreciate it.
But thank you.
Thanks anyway.
So I was gonna have to give the same speech to somebody else today, but they're not here. Now, the man in charge up there, would you give him that? He's the chairman. Would you take it up to him? Thank you. Yeah. Great. And then take this last one to the man right here, eating the cupcake. And Robbie, you're the same. You got yours last week.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but thank you for being on the committee. So we're going to ask Chrisanne to mail that to Kevin. He's not here tonight with all your address. So again, thank you so much for the time you spend doing this. Thank you so much for the effort you put in and showing up in the middle of a hot summer night to do all this important stuff. So can we say thank you to them?
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you all.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Troutdale Planning Commission for Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. If we could have roll call, please.
Commissioner Andrews.
Here.
Commissioner Leamy.
Here.
Commissioner Wilcox.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Meekoff.
Here. Here? Can you hear me?
He's unmuted.
Can you hear me?
There he goes. Try that again.
Commissioner Meekoff.
Here. Here.
Can you hear us, Kevin?
I can. I have headphones. Can you hear me now?
I thought you were gonna test everybody.
Okay.
Should we go?
Yes.
I'm here.
Okay. No audio from the outside.
No audio?
Commissioner Prickett.
Here.
Chair Stephenson.
Here. Okay, at this time, I would like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Andrews will be leading us this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are we able to deal with the audio between Kevin and ourselves?
Well, everything's set up. Everything is set up properly.
Okay,
We're not
He
hearing
can
that
hear, but
portal
we can't hear
feedback.
him.
yeah, we can't hear him.
You can't hear me? You can't hear me? Hello?
We're working on it, sir. Okay, and before we get started, before we take meetings since July 1st, we would like to elect officers this evening. And then the other point of business would be electing a representative to the Town Center Advisory Committee, Town Center Advisory Board, sorry. And so if that's okay with everyone, okay, we'll go ahead and dispatch and do those before public comment, if that's okay. All right, and so with that, at this time, we'd like to open the nominations for Planning Commission Chair for this year.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Prickett.
recommend that Tammy Stephenson be the chairperson.
Second.
Okay, other nominations for chair at this time? Okay.
I move that the nominations be closed.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to second to close the nominations. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And at this time, I would like to take nominations for vice chair for the Planning Commission for this year.
Chair,
Commissioner Allen, please.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Prickett.
Okay.
Zach, a second.
Okay. Motion and a second for Commissioner Prickett. Any other nominations for vice chair at this time? Okay. Motion to close.
I move that the nominations be closed.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So we'll just take these, all in favor of Tanny Stephenson for chair, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, you guys are in trouble now. Okay, and for Shirley Prickett for vice chair, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that one carries. Okay, the next order of business would be an appointment to the Town Center Advisory Board for this coming year. And there's a couple of people that are not eligible for that position. And that would be like this half of the room here. So we are looking for an appointment for that body.
I would like to do it,
Okay,
if that's appropriate to say.
all right. So we have, do we have a second for Shirley Prickett?
I'll second.
Okay, any other nominations for the Town Center Advisory Board? Okay, with that, close nominations?
Chair, I move that we close the nominations.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay. And nominations closed. All those in favor of Shirley Prickett for appointment to the Town Center Advisory Board?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
You got a twofer. All right. With that, at this time, we would like to take public comment. Anyone wishing to speak to the Planning Commission this evening on a non-agenda item? No? Looked like you were coming up, Adrian. Okay. All right. With no comment and not seeing any online. And can we hear him yet?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear
We
me?
still can't hear Kevin.
Still can't hear?
We're working on it still, sir.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? No?
All right.
No? Yes?
No, he's not muted.
Testing 1, 2.
Everybody should be muted except the system. So they'll have to maybe make comments on the side.
Okay, so he's muted.
It doesn't look like he's muted, but he should be muted.
Well,
Let's unmute
I'm
him.
not
No,
muted,
he
but
can't.
you can't hear me?
Yeah, he's talking, but we can't hear him.
Kevin is muted now.
Okay,
He still can't, he says he can't hear us.
can you hear us?
Yes,
He can hear us, yeah. Okay,
So
so,
it's something on his end. Is his headset plugged in?
yeah. Can you maybe try dialing back in by chance?
Sure.
Okay,
So can we get contact with the other two
Yeah.
people that are?
Ken, can you confirm with everybody else that they can hear us?
sure.
Or that we can hear
Can
them?
you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
And the only other one I've got
No?
is Kevin Otter, pilot. Sir, can you hear us?
Yes,
You can hear us now? Okay.
yes, but
And-
you can't hear
We
me?
still can't hear him, but
Yeah, we still can't hear him. We're gonna try something else here. I think we're gonna dance over it or something.
Can you hear me
See what
now?
we can do.
I made a switch. Can you hear me now? No? Can't hear me? Does this work? Can you hear this now?
I guess since Kevin
No?
can't talk, I'll talk about him for a second. I'd like to welcome Kevin Minkoff to the Planning Commission. He was recently appointed, and we are excited to have him aboard. And welcome, sir. You know, you can't talk back, but we are very excited to have you and your expertise on this board. And also, we have a new alternate for the Planning Commission, and that is Robbie Cottrell, who's out there. Welcome, sir. Thank you for your service. Okay, and I'm guessing with that, still can't hear him.
he's joining again.
Okay. So I think we'll go ahead and get started if that's okay with everyone. Okay, tonight, we have case file 75-13, industrial zone code update, and this is actually a type 4 hearing. And then we have home forward discussion, and that will follow that item. And before we open the hearing for tonight, I'd like to explain a little bit about the Planning Commission, the procedure we'll be following for the public hearing. The Planning Commission is an appointed 7-member volunteer body of Troutdale citizens. Members of the Planning Commission are Troutdale residents who've been appointed by the City Council. They serve 4-year terms. They're strictly volunteers and receive no pay for their services. The Planning Commission is an appointed citizen committee for the review of land use applications and various land use related matters within the city. Items which the Planning Commission consider include uses of land, subdivisions, major variances, land use policy plans, and development regulations. For some land use applications, the Planning Commission makes a final decision. For other applications, they are simply making a recommendation to the City Council, who renders the final decision. Tonight's case file, the Planning Commission will be making a recommendation to the City Council for the development code updates. Quasi-judicial public hearings are held in accordance with Oregon law and procedures contained in the Troutdale Development Code. The hearing proceeds as follows. City staff presents their report, which includes applicable criteria and standards for the matter under consideration in the land use application. All testimony and evidence should be directed towards these criteria. If you believe that other criteria in the comprehensive plan, development code, or other city land use regulations apply, you must identify these criteria and explain why they apply to the decision. The Planning Commission accepts public testimony relating to the application. The applicant is allowed to speak first, followed by proponents, then by opponents, and then by any parties neutral to the application. An opportunity will be provided to anyone testifying to clarify any issues raised. All issues raised by a participant during the public hearing must be sufficiently clear and specific to allow the Planning Commission and other parties an opportunity to respond to those issues. Failure to raise an issue during this public hearing may invalidate a future appeal based on that issue. Prior to closing the public hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony regarding the application. The planning commission must grant the request either by continuing the public hearing to a future date or by leaving the record open for at least 7 days to admit only that specific additional written evidence or testimony. If the record is left open for the additional written evidence or testimony, any participant may file a written request for an opportunity to respond to new evidence submitted during the period the record was left open. If such a request is filed, the Planning Commission shall reopen the record to allow any person to raise new issues which relate to the new evidence, testimony, or criteria for decision-making. And as a final note, if you plan to speak this evening, please fill out one of the testimony cards, and when you come forward, please speak clearly into the microphone, as these proceedings are televised and recorded so that we can capture all of your comments for the record. And given that this is a type 4 hearing, we don't have any conflict of interest or biased issues that need to be declared at this time. And so with that, we will open case file 7513, Industrial Zoning Code Update. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair. Good to be here. Should I jump right in?
Sure.
Okay. So my name is David Berniker. I'm the Community Development Director, and I'm joined by Chris Ann Washington, who's a planning assistant, and with Carrie Brennicky, who's a consultant to staff while we have no staff, make consulting. Carrie's been saving us, so happy that she's here. So tonight we're here to talk about or present the industrial updates to the industrial and commercial zones text. In many ways, this is a cleanup. This is something that we brought to council earlier in September of 2022, and it was denied for many different reasons. So we're coming back and now actually revisiting that. This is, if you remember, this is a follow-up from the conversation or the work session we had about a month ago. So again, I'll jump into it. So can you get this presentation, please?
By the way, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Still nothing?
Okay, sorry, I can try again here. Here's the-
Just have to ask a question of Mr. Breaker, get this sorted out.
Yes, you may.
Is this a continuation of an application last fall? Or is this a new case file?
It's a new case file.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I provided a little bit of context about where it came from, but this is a new case file. We're starting over from scratch. We had the work session last month. Similar and added issues based upon the feedback we got from you guys. Can you get it to not show the notes page, please?
Just go to view. Go to view. Oh.
Okay, so this evening, we're here to discuss 5 items, which is to allow for repair, modification, sales, and rental of automobile, truck trailers, heavy equipment, recreational vehicles, boat, and manufactured home services as a permitted use in light industrial zone rather than a conditional use. And that term comes up a lot, and if you're okay, I'm just going to refer to it as the equipment moving forward. The next piece is to revise the land use tables in the industrial and commercial zone district to not permit marijuana facilities. The third item is to reorganize the industrial zoning chapter to include a use table and dimensional standards. The fourth item is minor amendments to the type 2 variance criteria. And then finally, as we discussed at our team meeting or workshop, adding an area in chapter 5 for psilocybin regulations. Next slide. So as Chair mentioned, this is a type 4 land use application. Planning Commission is reviewing and providing a recommendation to council. City Council's decision-making body. It's been noticed in the proper resources, the newspaper and online. Planning Commission again has the action to bring this forward if they so choose. And at this juncture, staff is recommending approval to Planning Commission to advance this to City Council. Next. So starting with the industrial use chapters and going back to the initial intent, what we did here is, as shown, is to change items that were previously listed as conditional to permitted. So these are uses that we talked about and they're kind of adjacent to our industrial zone, and it made sense that we've already been treating them as permitted to kind of move in that direction to simplify our code in that direction. Next. The next piece also deals with how we treat certain uses and specifically marijuana. So in this particular case, all 3 marijuana facilities go from conditional use to not being permitted. And again, that's shown in the table format in your packages and on the screen. Next. The next piece, again dating back to September, was to move the zoning code, the development code, from a narrative form to a table form for ease of use for everybody, especially the development community. And in this particular case, you see what that looks like. There's no changes proposed to the content. It's just kind of more of a formatting issue. Next. Okay, the next piece of this information is dealing with the variance, and what happened in this particular area per the recommendations of Planning Commission is that Planning Commission recommended that we change the threshold from type 2s from currently 10 to 30% to 10 to 15%. So we made it, Planning Commission suggested making the thresholds a little bit more narrow and giving them more purview to look over certain cases that otherwise may not get before them. Similarly, related to the type 2s and the type 3s, it previously capped at 30% on what could be reviewed or maximum, and that's been proposed to change to 15% per the direction of Planning Commission. Next. So now comes the long-winded part, which is the approval criteria for all of this, and it's just a lot because we're dealing with 5 or 6 different elements. But the first element of the approval criteria says the proposed changes to the development code do not, to get approval, the proposed changes to the development code do not conflict with the applicable comprehensive land use plan goals or policies. And to that extent, the proposed uses do not conflict with the comp plan. As it relates to marijuana, marijuana facilities are not addressed in the comp plan, so the issue is not debatable as part of the approval criteria. Facilities are not addressed in the comprehensive, as I mentioned, the comprehensive plan. The revisions to the land use tables for commercial and industrial zoning districts for marijuana are in response to the passing of Ordinance 882 by City Council on March 14, 2023. Ordinance 882 bans additional marijuana facilities and refers the ban to a vote, which will happen in 2024. So in this particular case, the criterion is met. The next item that needs to be satisfied is that the proposed changes are consistent with the applicable statewide planning goals. The amendments proposed in this application are not substantive in a way that jeopardizes conformance to the statewide planning goals. Goal 9 speaks to the need for cities to have enough land available to realize economic growth and development opportunities. The economic interest in uses involving, and again, I'll call it the equipment, supports economic development, especially in this area. As it relates to marijuana facilities are not addressed in statewide planning goals or goal 9, so the issue is not debatable and the criterion is met. The third item on the list is the proposed changes are consistent with the applicable provisions of the Metro Code. Chapter 3.7 of the Metro Code contains the Urban Growth Management Functional Plan. Title 4 of the functional plan contains standards for industrial and other employment areas. Title 4 speaks to provide and protect the supply of sites for employment by limiting the types of scale of non-industrial uses in regionally significant industrial areas and employment areas. A significant majority of the city's employment area designation is zoned for general commercial, and which the equipment is being proposed and is a permitted use. This proposal allows the same uses to be permitted in light industrial and will only affect a small portion of the land designated by the comprehensive plan. The proposed management amendments move the development closer into compliance with the growth functional plan, hence the criterion is met. The next element is item D, talks about the public needs is best satisfied by these particular changes. There's two things to consider. One, many of the existing businesses dealing with the equipment are in need of currently in conditional use of approval. Therefore, allowing the equipment, the automobile, truck, trailer, heavy equipment, recreational vehicle, boat, manufactured home services to be allowed as a permitted use provides a level of compromise that balances the community's concerns with economic interest and demand. In other words, these changes also move towards compliance. The second thing to consider is that as we walk through those 5 elements from the beginning, deals with the variance. The change in the variance application thresholds between type 2 and type 3 allows for greater oversight of the variance from elected and appointed leaders, which further satisfies the public need. So again, the criterion is met. The final thing that's addressed in the approval criteria is that the changes will not adversely affect the health, safety, or welfare of the community. There's 2 points that related to the land use. Moving trucks, trailers, and heavy equipment from a conditional use to a permitted use will not affect the health and safety of the community. The proposed amendments regarding marijuana facilities brings the development code into compliance with the city's ordinance of banning new marijuana facilities. The changes in variance application thresholds are not related to health or safety of the welfare of the community beyond providing greater oversight, and the criterion is thus met. Next slide, please. So when we look at these changes, the other thing just wanted to point out is something that we had a conversation about, which is psilocybin, which needs more attention. But you'll see that we have a placeholder for that in chapter 5. That is something that we're going to probably want to have, if we're directed to, some conversations with the city attorney, because it does operate a little bit different than the marijuana laws and codes. And with that, next slide, please. Staff recommends approval of the proposed text amendments to the city council for adoption. That's my report, Chair.
Okay. Just a couple of comments. The text that's underlined, most of that is existing text that's just being moved to another section.
That is correct.
Right. When I first read this, I'm like, what? And then the only other thing I was going to say is, as far as the change for the industrial, we had a property owner request that, and we had the Port of Portland request that as well. And with that, we'll open it up for questions of staff.
Do we know if this is up to date, Chair?
It should be. Do you have a specific question? Or just-
I was just regarding the light industrial area, and all that sort of, I'm just trying to get a kind of a visual representation of what's being approved where exactly.
The general industrial?
The,
Light.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. In industrial parks, even kind of a little more sporadic than that.
Mhm.
And we talked about this in September.
Mhm.
I think it's still valid, it's more of a code cleanup.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite working for applicants and for staff, so.
Thorough as ever, makes sense. Gosh.
Sure.
Commissioner Allen?
So, yeah, I agree with Commissioner Andrews. It is a small amount of area that we have. And as far as automotive on the north side of the freeway, I can see no concern about doing automotive or that type of heavier industry, because it's not going to bother anyone, right? My only concern is when we come into these neighborhood areas. And so.
But that would be industrial park, right?
What, right?
It looks like it's light industrial. The list look like the same shape.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then when I look at the other proposed uses, which is rentals and so forth, that's dramatically different. And that takes a lot of area to do those types of things. So I was just trying to put my head around the rationale to it. So maybe can you explain further what the rationale is for?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a stat, and Carrie, you can try to give a stat too, but, you know, the main thing is that the main element is that you've had people come in to have these various uses via the conditional use process. And historically, it's my understanding that those have been approved. And so you're moving.
You're referring to the automotive shop we have up here.
Now, I'm referring to that, but just anything in that light industrial area has been historically approved. And it doesn't seem to provide necessarily a hardship, in my eyes, to anybody south of that area. And it creates more, you can make the argument that it creates a little bit more of economic opportunity because you're not going through an arduous process for something that seems pretty benign. But again, that decision is planning commission's.
Staff would still be looking at the noise and the buffering, I take it.
anything that comes in with an application would have to be approved in that way.
Because I would think that next to the neighborhoods, you would need more buffer than you would across from the freeway for something that's going to put out noise.
Right, if somebody, Carrie might ask for help on this. So if somebody came in with a new use on the particular site, they're going to need to meet the setbacks and the other conditions of that particular zone. So I cannot recall how we treat noise, but there's definitely setbacks for new uses that come in.
Are you thinking of West Historic Columbia River Highway in particular?
We're talking about this area,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. We have neighborhoods here and here that
Right.
are next to that. So as far as sales and rentals, yeah, you're not going to disturb the neighbors that much there. But when you get into automotive, not necessarily a good fit, something like industrial. But when you come up here,
Yeah.
make your noise.
Well, the only one I was thinking is you got ODOT there now.
Yeah.
Well, isn't the Multnomah County Animal Shelter also down along that road?
Further down.
Further down?
This area.
Yeah.
What I can add in here is changing the regulation from conditional in the general industrial, it's a permitted use. The issue is more on Metro side is the sales and rentals, and this use is more commercial. So it'd be permitted in commercial zones. They're more concerned about using industrial land more as commercial land, because this use is a lighter use than what is generally permitted in light industrial, this proposed use. It's considered more commercial and they have less of an impact than the other uses allowed in this zone.
So I guess question would be also, for rental and storage, do we use up a lot of valuable land north of the freeway? Anyway, something for the committee to discuss.
There's a tractor trailer, I'd say, business down along, and I don't know if it's in the light industrial or if it's in the industrial. It's just before the entrance onto I-84, right there behind the airport. Now, is that considered part of that, or is that what they call a non-conforming?
It might have a conditional use at the moment, it might be non-conforming, I don't know the status of it at the moment.
Sure. It's approved, I believe.
The light industrial, the code reads, the purpose of the light industrial is
Coast
for.
Truck Center. Coast Truck Center.
Sure.
Yes.
I do have a question, I guess for staff as well. But when it comes to the changes to fall into compliance with our ordinance for marijuana facilities, notice it says further, so I just wanted to double check and see like what the status of like the one that we have down in that light industrial area is gonna, how that impacts that existing business, if it does.
It doesn't.
Because it says further.
Yeah.
Just double checking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does not.
Okay.
Commissioner Levy? Okay. Just real quick.
Well, on the industrial subject, this came about originally from the property owner in that corporate part, Green Drive and Corporate Drive, right?
The first one, yeah.
So they were asking for their light industrial to be treated as general industrial, and having these words, mechanical or whatever. Problem is, changing, upgrading their light industrial upgrades light industrial everywhere. That leads to what Councilor Al, or Commissioner Allen was referring to. I also have a problem with the upgrading the light industrial adjacent to the residential on Historic Highway. I voted against it last time, I voted against it again. On that basis, because you've got, the reason essentially is you're calling for repair and modification. Once you get into that, you're talking about repair, you're talking about petroleum products, flammable products, like the torches, cutting torches, grinders, right across the street from residences. So, I'm just opposed to that in that location.
The potential.
Yeah. Is there a way we can delineate between north and south industrial?
If they want to do this up on Marine Drive, fine, but not on Historic Highway.
The only way you could do it that I can think of would be like within the town center overlay.
Is that in the town center overlay?
I believe it is. I think it would hit that and probably not the other one.
Would that make it a conditional use because it is in the town center overlay?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
What's that? At moments. Would the overlay hit that?
Looking for, where is that chapter?
Is it, first, is it in the town center overlay?
Yeah.
It is?
It would be the town center overlay.
From what this map shows here, being the blue dotted line on the town center overlay, it actually cuts out that industrial area, so it would not be included in the town center overlay.
Well, who thought of that anyhow? Okay, so that doesn't work.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, even if it did work, I'm not sure. Your all decision, but it compromise what we're trying to do in the town center. So.
As far as opening up the use?
Yeah.
So you would recommend leaving it the way that it stands? As proposed?
Probably would.
Okay.
But I just want to point out again, in the light industrial, already manufacturing of other things is permitted.
Right.
This is, the reason why it's changing is because it's a commercial use, this equipment change. And we're changing it to allow it permitted outright in an industrial zone. So there's a whole lot of things permitted in light industrial zone. This, I mean, you can judge for yourselves, may not be one of the more intense uses compared to other things that could go in there.
Correct. Okay. Any other questions for staff? Commissioner Minkoff? Do you have any questions?
Can you hear me now?
No. I
Can
still
you-
can't hear.
Can you hear? You still
Can you
can't
put it
hear?
into chat if you have a question?
Sure. Okay, does that work any better? Can you hear me? Still can't hear me? No, can't hear me?
Chair Stamps.
Yes.
In the meantime, clarification and stuff. So what you're saying there is it would be allowed here. And all we're doing is also saying that we could allow it here as well.
Is the orange industrial park?
No,
It's general
light gray.
commercial.
General commercial, yeah, general commercial, I'll look it up. Check out general
It's
commercial.
more of a commercial use than an industrial use.
This is what's giving Metro the heartache.
So we're already allowing it right in that.
In the general
Yeah.
industrial.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gives Metro a heartache.
That we're basically allowing a commercial use and permitted outright in an industrial area. So this is tag commercial use in industrial area in the code. Because they consider the retail, the sales, and to be, and even the repair to be commercial use, not industrial use.
I think that the repair is easier to move into industrial use than the rental and sales. That's just a comment.
Is he able to type his comments in?
Yes.
Is chat enabled? I'm not seeing anything.
I don't see more of that chat.
This isn't Teams, right?
This is Zoom.
For a point of clarification, vehicular equipment services, repair shops, fueling stations, sales and rentals are permitted uses in the general commercial zone as well.
Who's loading back out?
Okay. See if this works this time.
Can you hear me now? Am I coming through at all?
In a way, yeah.
Hello?
That solves the argument of the automotive and light machine and that sort of thing, right? So then my only remaining question out there is, what about the rental cells on the north side of the freeway? That's
Storage units.
I guess we kind of already have that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Kind of already got that storage.
There's also
Probably have a
some,
lot of it.
new, land up for sale.
Can you hear me?
They're not that much of a lead difference. Back to what that-
Can you hear me?
They're also saying that a lot of it historically is just approved anyway, and it's just kind of one less step. It's all stuff that's already.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you have the rail road going right through there anyway. So as far as noise being concerned, and you already have that light industrial
Good point.
buildings, HVAC repair, and everything in that area. So I mean, if anything, it's just kind of like less red tape for the people that are already there.
Mr. Minkoff?
Can you hear me at all? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You
still
can't
don't
hear
have
me.
Audio. Okay. Do you have texting capability for him or something?
You can maybe call him on a phone or a cell phone and see, turn the volume.
The
Call.
phone number.
We're gonna give you a number to call here. Or we're gonna call you, how's that? Yes.
I just want to say thank you. I found the discussion helpful. Appreciate it.
Sure.
He can hear us, correct?
Yeah,
So David is calling right now.
okay. David's
Yes.
calling you now. Okay, and did you have a question for staff?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Nothing, huh? Can't hear me. Can't hear me?
There we go.
Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, we can, Kevin. So
I'll tell you what, I'm going to, let's see, I need to mute myself here.
Right.
You know what, I'll leave the meeting. Okay, so we don't get a feedback.
Okay, I think we're good now, right?
I'm terribly sorry about.
No, that's okay. Did you have a question for staff before we went any further?
Well, I'm not sure if this is the correct time, but I have a question regarding it appears to me, being new to this, that on TDC, this is some of the pages that I received, TDC 3-22, it's the table that shows community commercial and general commercial. And it appears that the recommendation is going to be to change the general commercial split it into three categories. Is that right? Industrial park, light industrial, and general industrial?
No, sir, it's in 3 parts already. Instead of just having this all laid out in text, we're taking and putting it into a table.
So the commercial, let's see, it's considered community commercial and general commercial. How does that relate to industrial park, light industrial, and general industrial?
So you have, Commissioner, you have 5 different things going on here. There's 5 different asks, if you will, that are kind of grouped together, which can all be sort of grouped under the umbrella of, just making updates to the code, simplifying the code. The conversation that we were having recently was just focusing on one perspective, which was how to put this, the acceptance, if you will, of going from something that is a conditional use in light industrial to a permitted use. So this, if that makes sense.
Well, it does, yes. You're talking about for all that automobile.
Right. So that was the
maintenance and so on.
that was the conversation that your fellow planning commissioners were debating.
And now there's a concern over the overlap with the town center?
No, there was a question of would it be easier to fold some of these uses into the town center? That was quickly resolved in the sense that the town center doesn't cover this particular area of zoning.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. The conversation,
Yeah, that's helpful. All right.
Okay.
That was it. Thank you.
Okay.
Now do I just stay on the phone?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, with that, if there's no more questions for staff, we'll go ahead and take public comment at this time. Is there anyone wishing to testify as a proponent? Bless you.
I have one comment to make. We received another group of comments from Metro
Okay.
about this in an email on Monday. I apologize, I was out of town till today. They really want more findings on our end on how it complies with the Metro functional code. So it's not really any decision making by you. They just want more information from me on how the changes comply with their regulations.
Okay.
But that is going to be entered into the record in this email we received.
Okay. So we'll be writing an additional finding to cover that.
Yes, we'll be writing it. I think they had 5 more questions they wanted answered, so we will be writing more to them.
Okay. No one wishing to testify as a proponent? Anyone wishing to testify as an opponent? Any neutral parties wishing to testify this evening? Okay. Motion to close public hearing?
I move that we close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Did you get that first? Okay. We have a motion, a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. Okay, so carry on that. You'll be writing, staff will be writing findings
Yeah, so what will happen is they want more information. They didn't say it necessarily had to be in the staff report, but I'll probably put in the staff report to the city council, just showing
Okay.
that it's been addressed. And then hopefully my second round of explanation to them will be satisfactory.
Okay. All right. Anything else from anybody?
A couple more, I don't want to jump ahead, but I have a couple of questions on a couple of the table entries.
Sure.
Okay, let's see.
Where are you?
Page TDC 3-22, land use table, under food cart pod. We're in the specific standards column, 5.200 has been added. Looked up 5.200, there's not much of anything there. It's 5.220, which reads, in accordance with the following use and operational standards, blank.
No,
It was a carryover. I think it was just to bring it in conformance with the rest of the similar uses.
Right.
And then my other one was, see a page number.
There is a 5220 though.
Yeah. Mobile vendors.
It's under, what page this is, under land use. Has residential uses at the top, and under commercial uses, under industrial park column, the letters NF. What does that mean?
Where are you, sir? Yeah, where are you?
The top of the page says 3.420, use table for industrial zoning districts.
Mhm.
Under commercial uses,
Yeah, I see what you mean, yeah.
I don't know what NF means.
So, type
I don't know what NF means either.
could it be
To be
a
honest,
typo?
it could be a typo. We can,
It's in the existing code, we could probably fix it. So,
Okay, that's all I have on the table, so now.
Okay. So on mobile food vendors, the reference to 5.200 is that entire section. So that would encompass 5.210 and or 5.220, whichever is applicable.
And what I'm getting at is, after the word standards in 5220, there isn't anything there, after the colon.
You know, I think we have to find that. There is something, it's just not there. No, we wrote mobile standards,
Well,
and it ended up someplace else. Paul has a good point.
we will
Track those down.
We will track down NF and we will track down letters of.
So I think we're still okay to reference it as 5.200.
Yeah. I mean,
And we just need
yes.
to plug those in.
Yep.
Okay. All right. We're gonna find NF. We're gonna add in the rest of that language. And is there anything else? This one, we just struck this out and just moved the text, right? Just-
Yes.
yeah, just like that. Okay. Anyone else have anything? Any recommendations? No? Okay. What do you have a recommendation?
I don't.
Okay, motion?
This is Zach, I motion that we accept the amended text as presented by staff.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for case file 75-13 industrial zoning code update. To accept as amended. And a formal recommendation to city council for adoption of the code changes. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Washington.
Yes, of course. Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilcox,
No.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Minkoff. We don't have him on the line anymore.
He's not? Where'd he go?
I'll do everybody else, but if you want to dial him. I'll shoot for dial. Seven, two.
Commissioner, you were just, hello, Commissioner, you were asked about voting for this particular amendment.
If I have any questions, and this is, which amendment was this?
Well,
This is the final.
This is for the final, for approval of the staff report to advance this to city council.
Oh, well, I have a couple of questions. First off, it talks about ordinance 882, which is supposed to be going to a vote. Has that vote happened yet? It says something about 2024 is the vote.
882 was an ordinance that the city council passed, and it will be put on the ballot. I believe it's fall of 24. Is that right, Paul? Yeah.
Fall of 24.
Right.
So is it, so that whole, that ordinance may fail?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
In fall of 24.
Correct.
So is it appropriate, and excuse me for being a novice at this, is it appropriate to be making a number of changes based on an ordinance which may fail? Would it be better to hold these in abeyance for that ordinance to see whether or not it passes?
No, because what we have to do is we have an ordinance that does not allow this. Okay, and so we have to match the code to the ordinance until there's another action that's taken. Okay, so all we're trying to do is make our stuff match the other stuff.
Right, and so if the ordinance fails in a general vote, then the planning commission will have to go back and revise a number of things.
Right, and we may need something to do then anyhow, so it'd probably be okay.
Okay, I have one other question. I understand that, thank you. One other question related to marijuana. I understand that there seems to be an inconsistency with marijuana processors versus marijuana retailers. And I understand that in the district, in mostly the commercial districts, the retail of marijuana will now go to an N for not permitted. But in the ordinance, it says something about marijuana processors being a conditional, being a C in the general commercial, and yet when I looked at the marijuana processors, this is TPC 3-23 of the chart. Marijuana processors in the general commercial is as an N, and I thought that was supposed to be a C based on the paragraphs of description that says processors are at least should be at least a C in the general commercial district.
No, marijuana processors are not allowed in community commercial and general commercial. Either one of those. The processors are only allowed on industrial property as a conditional use.
Because if I look at page 6 of 9, this is 75-13- text amendment. Page 6 of 9, the second paragraph right in the middle says the development code continues to show marijuana processors as conditional use in the GI zone. But conditional use is not what it says on the chart. On the chart, it says N. So it seems to me that's an inconsistency. It should be changed one place or the other.
I think he's confusing commercial and industrial.
Right. Yeah, marijuana processors are only allowed in the industrial zone.
And the GI is a conditional use.
Right.
Do you understand the distinction?
Between a GI and a GC.
The marijuana is only allowed in the industrial zone, not in the commercial zone. In the commercial zone.
Okay.
So
that's just my understanding of the commercial zone versus the industrial zone.
that's correct. Yep.
Okay.
My last question is, I understand there's a section being left available for psilocybin. My thought is, why not now include psilocybin in the not permitted, the commercial zones?
And the answer is that psilocybin, this is a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but psilocybin is different than marijuana in terms, first of all, psilocybin is handled and is different than marijuana, so it needs to be treated separately. There was a kind of a sense of grouping it, but when we spoke to the attorneys, they're kind of different animals in terms of how they're processed or when even people can use the psilocybin facility. So it wasn't appropriate to join the two together.
What about having an added line that just says it psilocybin is not permitted in the commercial zones.
Because we're not sure we could actually do that.
Right. And when the council wrote that ordinance, they did not include psilocybin.
Right.
And
Okay.
we don't have
In
regs.
order to match the city council, we can only address marijuana at this point.
Right. And we don't have regs for psilocybin yet.
Right.
So it'd be very hard for us to take an action on that.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much. Those
You
are
bet.
my only questions.
So, yay
Yeah.
or nay?
And so we are up to you on the vote for case file 75-13.
So Commissioner, we're looking for your vote, or Planning Commission.
My vote is a yay.
Okay, thank you,
Send it to the council.
thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Prickett,
Yes.
Chair Stephenson,
Yes. Okay, that one passes. All right, thank you. And now, without further ado, we will move on to our next agenda item, and that is home forward discussion.
Okay.
Okay, you're
Ready?
up.
Yep. So, the purpose is just, as you said, Chair, thank you, to have a discussion about where we are in terms of the home forward development. As of yesterday, at 5 p.m., the ability to appeal the the development agreement between the city and Troutdale passed. Passed meaning that there's no longer an ability to weigh in and try to appeal this decision. So we're waiting for now Friday to hear what the final decision is, to see if anybody submitted at the last minute. My sense is, and historically, the answer will be no, but we don't know until it's, something could have gotten mailed to the state. So what I thought I would do with that is just provide a little bit of an overview of the project and how we got to the development agreement. And we're fortunate to have Home Forward here, Amanda Saul and Leslie Crean are here. They will help me when I go astray, and we'll go from there. So basically, the bottom line on the Home Forward project is 85 units, 145 parking spaces, which is a 1.7 plus 1.71 ratio, which was in some respects the magic target for Planning Commission and City Council. The majority of these spaces are on site, some of them are off site, but that is what the agreement came to bear. The project itself has been around for a while, discussed for a while, for over 2 years. It came to Planning Commission in August of 21. And there's been a lot of different conversations, work sessions, hearings, including 2 work sessions in December where this body weighed in. I believe worked very collaboratively with Home Forward to sort of get at a mutual place that they, respectful place that both sides can agree to. The project has always had various, design and development issues, which happens on every project. So things like building wall length or roof offsets and windows all triggered the project being elevated to a type 3. But the main issue is off-street parking. And, that was the thing that was kind of the primary back and forth between the applicant and the city. And again, what was agreed upon for the development agreement was something in the neighborhood of 1.7. to the applicant's credit, they tried to come in and have a conversation, or not that they tried, they came in and have a conversation and requested that the city vacate a segment of its right-of-way, which was encumbered a portion of their property. That was ultimately denied by Planning Commission and City Council. And City Council being on December 13th, formally denying the right-of-way. January comes rolling in and the playing field changes a little bit with climate-friendly, equitable community rules. And with those, the rules require that the city cannot require a low-income housing, an affordable housing, a workforce housing project to have any on-site parking. So there was a, disconnect. Home Forward never came in with thinking that they weren't going to provide parking. They were always going to provide parking. The how much has always been the issue. But they came in with a new proposal, given the climate-friendly equitable communities, the CFEC rules, and came in with 85 spaces and 85 units, excuse me, and 1.4 spaces. And I will say that those 85 units, primarily 50% of those are studios and 1 bedrooms, and the remainder are 2 and 3 bedrooms. So in other words, the housing is serving working families, which I think is important to this community. Subsequent to the approval of the application, one of the 2 residents who had the right to appeal Planning Commission did so. It did so on the magic word parking. And that's where it became, there was an acknowledgement, an understanding that, if we were to continue with that appeal process, things could have been worked out with Planning Commission, could have been advanced to City Council, could have passed. On the other side of the coin, given the history, there could have been a stalemate, and that stalemate could have been then taken to LUBA, and the likelihood of LUBA standing up the proposal was slim to none, given that the CFEC rules had gone into place. Now, in fairness, the CFEC rules there's communities out now questioning their legality at the moment, asking that question. So who knows exactly what would happen. To date, the impact of the CFAC rules, the conversations, has been minimal in terms of what they do to development. And for the city to enter into that discussion, it's not really a discussion, but if the city was to take legal action, or the Home Forward was to take legal action, it was probably going to be a costly and timely endeavor that the experts and didn't really think that the city had a path forward. So there was a notion of, could we enter into a development agreement? Could we figure out another path that maybe got what the city wanted, which was more parking, and got Home Forward what they wanted, which was a project, and that they could get started. And so that was what's been worked on, recently passing City Council. And as a result of those negotiations of the development agreement, 26 more spaces that were not part of Home Forward's original proposal were added to that proposal. Of those 26 spaces, 14 of those spaces will be controlled by the city, or the city will have access to those spaces, city being the people who live and work here. What we all heard all along, Planning Commission, City Council, is, and it's hard to find parking here, and especially at events and things of that nature. So this dedicates some spaces for that. It happens, these 14 spaces plus the 12 that Home Forward controls remains within the city's control. And in addition to that, because projects are, are a combination of many different factors. In a project like this, where you're taking a Second Street right-of-way, redesigning it for parking, redesigning your buildings, moving your buildings, infrastructure to get to those buildings. Anyway, it's a long way of saying that there's costs. And as part of the agreement, the city contributed gas tax fund of approximately $100,000 to Home Forward to make the project pencil. So, the pros of this is that there's a project on its way, and we all want it to be a good project. Knowing Home Forward and knowing the architect, I'm personally very confident. This eliminates future use or future need for staff time and financial resources that we don't know the end game. Again, it brings a type of housing that I think the community will benefit from. I'm just looking at our 2 new breweries that are going up, and where do those folks live, or even the folks that work at fulfillment center and things of that nature. So we're providing some housing, and then there's parking for the community. The cons of this, in all fairness, is there's some additional funds that maybe weren't anticipated, and we don't know what the CFEC rules, what will happen with CFEC, but that was the agreement that was ultimately brought to City Council, approved by City Council. And again, coming full circle, as of yesterday at 5 p.m., that the time for appealing this decision has passed, and we're waiting for the final decision. I think Home Forward's probably waiting a little bit more breathless than myself, but they're anxious to see what happens. And one would expect that will pass by Friday. So, excuse me. So that's the gist of the overall project. We talked a lot about the people who live there and why it's important and all that type of stuff. We can go into that more. We can talk about elements of the project. The developer, architect are here. But that's kind of the background of the project. I will say, as I'm kind of looking at my notes, besides the parking, when this project does get built, Home Forward will have an on-site property manager for residents. That's to contribute to safety, but it's also to contribute to the livability of this new community, which will have a full range of folks. So that's what I got. We're here to answer questions if we can, and that's my report.
Any direct questions of staff before we invite Home Forward to present? Okay.
And staff, Chair, I wasn't, Home Forward's here to answer questions.
Okay.
They're not here to make a formal presentation. They're here if there's questions or additional detail that might be useful and necessary.
Okay. It looks like there's a couple folks that wanted to speak this evening.
I'm going to remove my request to speak.
Okay. All right. Question is, if the bridge goes in, the Second Street Bridge, would that affect the parking count?
I should have this straight by now. The answer is, I think the answer is yes. That would have to be negotiated sometime because I think it's in the right of way. You guys know that?
It really depends on how it's designed and where it lands, but it would have to span over our section of property, or you have to have some kind of agreement.
But it would come down, right? I think right into that
Most
cul-de-sac.
likely it would come down before the parking, actually.
Okay, so the parking wouldn't be impacted?
Yeah, it's hard to
It's
say
really hard to say.
without a design.
And I mean, in fairness, you could just, good answer by Leslie, I mean, it's a cost, right? But you could, it's not an engineering or design problem for that thing to have a bend in it. If it was to avoid the parking, yes, it would be a cost because it's not a straight shot, but pedestrian bridges like this are being built everywhere, including the big one that you see, the Blumenauer Bridge over 84, and that's linear, but it also has, it's not perpendicular from its midpoint. I mean, it's higher on one side, it's lower on the other side, and there's a lot of these bridges going up to promote, connectivity, pedestrian and bike connectivity.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak this evening on this subject? No? Okay. Any comments?
Oh, it's one for it.
No.
They're just here to answer questions.
They're here to answer questions.
Oh, okay. Yes, if I may.
Yes.
So this, I suppose this has less to do about the development, but the overall vision, right? So I don't know if you know, when I was 5, my father dropped out of society, and so we're homeless, right? And it seemed like that life was hard until he actually was, somebody helped him get a car, and that helped him have access to job opportunities that walking wasn't giving us. And the reason why I think back to this is because our transit here in this area actually isn't really that great. And so I feel like in this development, there's at least a compromise to get some spaces there. So with working families, what I'd like to see is I'd like to see them have the ability to have access to employment opportunities. Because if you want to keep somebody poor, you limit their job opportunities and you keep them renting. I think our goal in life should actually be to lift people up, not to hold them back. And I don't know how much involvement you have with the LCD or their rulemaking or anything like that. It seems counterproductive to what our mission should be. But anything you can do that actually helps people improve just seems like the way to go instead of holding them back. Do you have any thoughts or opinions on that?
I can start. I think it's definitely our mission to lift
You
people
guys
up.
come forward.
Oh, sure.
That'd be okay.
Yeah. Come to. If you ask me for numbers, I'll have to grab my laptop. It is definitely our mission and goal to lift up our residents and to provide them opportunities. And we do that in a multiple of ways, but just by having affordable rents allows folks to have more spending money to pursue another job opportunity, to be able to buy a car, whatever it is they choose to save for homeownership. We have a lot of resident services. Can't remember how many resident services staff, but this project will include resident services. It will also have a community room where there's computers available for people to use. And usually the residents help to define what services they need, but we do job training and application readiness and what are some other examples? A lot of services for after-school activities for kids, some like exercise classes.
And it seems like living in a nice place helps with self-esteem, which also helps with that confidence. to go out and pursue opportunities.
Well, and it really provides that stability in order to go and get the job. Because when you're homeless, then all you're trying to do is survive. And once you have a home and some stability, then you're able to make those next steps and move up.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you that it wasn't until I was 13 that my father decided to change and look for work. And I don't think before that anybody was going to change his mind. He kind of liked being free-spirited. I was just happy to get a place where I could eat and be warm in the morning, right? And so when people are ready to make that decision that they want to turn their life around, it's nice that we have a pathway for them. And so I take it it's not really your goal to follow what the LCD is suggesting, which is not have parking at all, but at least get people into affordable housing and have that opportunity to seek job opportunities.
Sure.
Because if you go by just the Max line, I'm one of the bus riders, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you just go by the Max line, the buses, you're very limited in where you can go in any kind of timely fashion.
Sure.
Especially out of Troutdale. It's not the same as being downtown Portland.
Right.
Well, and the hope is that this may house people that live in Troutdale and work in Troutdale.
Mm-hmm.
So the commute maybe is not a drive, maybe it's a walk, or, in the town center, or at the outlet malls, or wherever it may be.
Okay. I was just trying to get later.
Yeah, I'll just clarify about the DLCD, and maybe for the rest of the commission too. We were consistent with our project submittal. It was consistent with what we showed you in December. And so that was when we resubmitted our land use application in January, even though the DLCD laws allowed us to go to 0 parking, we kept the parking consistent with what we showed you before, except that we had parking in the right-of-way, which we weren't allowed to vacate and use. So it was, I can't remember what the number was, but I think it was about 1.4 parking spaces. So 1.4. Okay, thank you. So it was nowhere near 0. That wasn't our intention.
And Commissioner, when they came in and we were having conversations with you, they were up. There was no final decision, Chair, but we were in the neighborhood, at least my recollection, in December at 1.7, and that's what we wound up with the negotiation getting to.
Okay.
So they've always been way above 1 with their proposals.
Yeah, my memories also go with my wife, who's always been providing care, and she's a teacher now. But back when she was providing care, she would drive to these places and help them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to ever get rid of them completely.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for coming up with something that was mutually beneficial. I'm glad that the work was put in, and just really appreciate that on everyone's part. You already answered my main question, which was essentially like how the design differed from what we originally saw. And I imagine I probably have access to the latest designs and everything as far as staying up to date on.
It's just
that as it develops. Is that?
I'm sorry, Chair. I'm sure I interrupted you.
It's okay. I guess I just want to make sure that we're. I'm just interested in the project too in general, so I would like to know, I guess, where to.
The design features have not changed. Okay. In the building.
There was some variance between like possibility of like a community garden or other parking spots and things like that. So it was nicely designed, really well done. But yeah, that makes sense. I guess the configuration right away. So I guess I just wanted to know if it was changed. So,
yeah, the big change was that when Planning Commission and City Council voted against vacating the right-of-way, and it was based on this idea of not wanting to give up property that was the city's. And so in the development agreement, we have an easement over the Second Street right-of-way, which allows us a drive aisle and then head-in parking on both sides through an easement process instead of through a vacation. And so it adds more parking in that space. But otherwise, the design is pretty much unchanged. There's still community garden, there's still the play area.
Yeah, that whole center area of the complex is all like green space. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
We have a site plan and a rendering that we sent, just in case people were interested, that we're happy to show if people want to see it.
That would be done. Thank you.
You're next.
Okay. I just want to say, I think my probably concern or angst is more procedurally. I'd just be real blunt. I think the way this happened was the community's had a real thing about parking. It's been a real sticking point, and the community's felt real strongly about it. And right or wrong, this body tried to understand that and tried to uphold that. And I felt like they did that, and I felt like through everything that happened, we were pretty close. But then I'll just say, I think what happened in Salem is, to me, pretty inexcusable. For anyone to think that you could take a project that is workforce housing and think that you're gonna have 85 units and nobody's gonna have a car and nobody's gonna go visit these people and there's no need for any parking is nuts. And I appreciate that you guys didn't go to that level and say, okay, Salem says, so we're gonna do this. I appreciate that. Frankly, I think Salem should be spanked for doing something like that to a community anywhere, because it just doesn't work. It doesn't function. And to think that because people don't have money, they wouldn't have a car is kind of ridiculous. And I just, I kind of understand how we got here, but then I start wondering, it's like, so we've got an easement, right, over the right of way, and that's all great, but the city's responsible for the street, right? They maintain it.
Right, the right of way is the city of Troutdale.
And we could potentially lose some parking spots if the bridge goes in. And those parking spots should not have been included at all in the ratio. That's actually not allowed by code. But I don't think that changes that many things. It's just a technicality that I think somebody should have caught. And I'll just say it was kind of, this group had a tough time, and this isn't directed at you guys, but when it's a type 3, right, and then it has a vacation on it, and that goes to council, and the type 3 gets denied by planning commission, it comes back as a type 2 that gets appealed, that would come to the planning commission, but it didn't go to the planning commission. It ended up going to city council and became a development agreement, and the planning commission couldn't talk because there was a pending appeal. I'm just venting. I think it was just kind of a really strange thing for this group. I haven't seen it before, and I hope I don't see it again. It wasn't much fun, for what we do, to have that whole process kind of play out the way it did.
And nobody understood why we weren't talking. They didn't know.
Yeah, see, the community didn't understand why we weren't saying something. And because we have a gag order, that means basically, because it might come back to us, which it didn't. So that meant we didn't get to say anything at all. So and we didn't get the opportunity to look at it again and let the people look at it and say, yeah, this is great, it is great, it looks good. But we didn't get that opportunity.
Sure.
And the community didn't get that opportunity. So I get told by the community, why didn't you get to say anything? And I say, I wasn't allowed to.
And if I could just make a suggestion to the development agreement, you've got in there, you know, that you're gonna work towards the Second Street Bridge.
I forgot to mention that, please, Chair.
And I would just say, if possible, invest that energy. This is me talking, I know the agreement's signed. Invest that energy in working with the community, in being a partner and saying, hey, is there anything we can do? How is this working? Try to be more of a partner than, you know, I think when you're advocating for the bridge, it's a specific position, but you're gonna be a 50-year neighbor. And I think that's more important than anything else, and trying to make that work for everybody, I think would be helpful. And I know you didn't write it.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, we are neutral on the bridge. That was at the request of your city and your city attorney. So we are,
You're kind of like.
we're neutral
Yeah.
on the bridge.
No, I get
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I was just to be clear, the bridge is not our idea. It's not part of our project. It never was. We've been included in the bridge discussions because the bridge may land on our property.
But that would just be my suggestion, is just try to work with the neighbors and just, you know, be a good partner, and I know that you will.
Yeah,
but
I think we try to be good partners.
You know,
and I think we have tried to be good partners with our neighbor,
it's hard.
with the neighbors here, with our neighbors.
And I will say, at the end of the day, you know, what everybody has to understand is, this is how the property is zoned. This is an outright use for the property. And so along with that comes some rights for the property owner who is going forward. And with that, I think it's important to partner. And I think there's some things everybody could have done differently, but I think at the end of the day, what I appreciate is the fact that you didn't say, hey, you know what? We don't have to have any parking now, so we're gonna put in 180 units with no parking. Have a nice day. And I think something like that could have happened, and that would have just been
We
bad
were
for
very
everybody.
we were very intentional in not doing that.
Yeah.
We made the choice to keep our project consistent with the way that the Planning Commission last saw it.
Appreciate that, or at least I do, so.
Well, I do too, because I think it's a good project. Much better than it was when it started. Took us a long roundabout way to get there. But it is a good project, and we appreciate your time.
Yeah.
What your staff is saying?
Yes,
I
Commissioner.
think there's some wisdom in your words.
Uh-oh.
Because when you're talking about the republic, public opinion matters, right?
Yes.
Whatever's today can change tomorrow, the public opinion changes. So I guess we do always have to partner with each other.
I think this is our 10th public meeting in Troutdale. And
Yeah.
so
That's probably more than you would have in Portland.
Yeah, definitely.
By like, what, 8?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
And so just as a show of our willingness to partner with you all.
Yeah.
And there's some pretty pictures on the screen if you want to get a sense of what the building will look like. Do you want to walk them through it?
Second, Leslie, you want to sit there?
Oh, yeah, so this is at the you're looking actually from like kind of the sheriff's office across the street at the cul-de-sac there, so Kendall. And they'll, on the right-hand side there is where there's kind of the glass areas, the community center. And then straight ahead is the playground. And then you can't see it, but to the left would be the parkway that continues on. I don't know if there's another rendering there that, that's just kind of now looking towards the community center. There's the playground, and then just behind that will be a covered picnic kind of area with barbecue, a barbecue area. And then that's looking at the, if you're looking towards the sheriff's office now, across, and that's the barbecue area, the covered barbecue area, and then the playground would be in the foreground. And on the left there, you can see all the glass, and that's the community center, which we hope to have the community, you know, host the community there for other stuff too.
I'll just say, great job by you and your team. You had to.
I know.
A few times.
Yeah. Well, it was, just to say, it's nice to see that we were able to get rid of the cul-de-sac, that 3/4 cul-de-sac, because to me, that was a lot of expense and waste of space. I mean, it's good to see now that it's going to the parking that you guys wanted and not just something that's, yeah, that's kind of just this, I don't know, requirement that was there.
Do we want to show a site plan? Is that helpful?
I don't know if oh, the one.
You did, it's just.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we sent a site plan. But if
It's not color and rendered.
It's black and white.
But
yeah. If people want to see a site plan.
Commissioner Wilcox?
Yeah, I have a few comments, questions, very briefly. I've been hearing 3 different terms applied to the project as far as the residents: low income, affordable, and workforce. They've been used interchangeably, but they're not the same. None of them are the same. My question is, at what income level are your residents? What's the maximum income level going to be for residents?
Oh, she went for the laptop.
Oh, thanks. So our different funding sources require different income and rent requirements. And so the most restrictive in this case is the Metro bond funds. And the Metro bond funds come with requirements that say that 40% of the units must serve people at 30% and below. And the other 60% of the units can serve people up to 60% of area median income. To give you a sense of what a 1-bedroom at 60% rent is allowed, it's $1,200, $1,200 a month for a 1-bedroom. And that serves somebody at 60% and below based on the median family income. That's shocking to most people. That seems really expensive. So the people living in these units have to be able to afford that. So that's why sometimes we refer to it as workforce housing, because to be able to afford a rent like that, you have to have some sort of income.
Do those figures vary by household size?
Yes, they vary by household size. And
It's on the other side.
Thank you.
a 1-bedroom can have up to 2 people in the unit.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, 2.
3-bedroom apartments, 60% average median income is $1,700. I mean, it's real money to live here. The whole region's expensive.
Yeah, but that's even cheaper than, that's still reasonable considering that a 3-bedroom apartment is like $3,500 and something.
Depending where you are.
Yeah.
But
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be cheap.
I think in one of my presentations, and I think if I remember correctly, the average for a 2-bedroom rental in Troutdale last year, I think, was $2,200 a month for a rental. And so the benefit of affordable housing or income restricted housing is that housing will always be maintained as affordable. So as rents go up in the Portland metro area in Troutdale, these homes will be restricted. And so they will always be affordable to people at or below 60% of median family income.
Another question, comment. It seemed like from the very initial designs, we're assuming you get the Second Street vacation. I think that was a mistake on your part. It did come down to a 4-3 decision by council. But did you feel like staff had maybe misrepresented the possibility of that possibly?
I don't think staff misrepresented it. I think staff recommended that we ask for the vacation because staff understood that parking was what was important to Troutdale. And so in order to get more parking on the project, the way to do that is to, typically the way to do that is to vacate the right of way. And so staff recommended that we vacate the right of way. And so that was part of our request, which was then denied.
Your December presentation before planning assumed the vacation.
Correct.
Which had been denied the night before by council.
Right.
So that was kind of DOA.
Right, you can't change plans that quickly.
Yeah. I did have an observation, kind of confused me. The on-site parking numbers changed a bit, actually, from December to July. I'm reading I got this information off reading the diagrams, the slides. In December, parking lots A and B respectively had 36 and 26 spaces. And in July, A and B had 28 and 29 for a loss of 5.
Do you want me to speak to that?
Yeah, please.
So when we added the parking in the right of way, that area that you see that's kind of gray, where the 12 spaces are there, we had used for swale to capture water on the site. But then when we changed it and made it into parking, we had to have that area for swale to capture water on the site somewhere else. So you can see as you enter that parking lot from that right of way, there's a big kind of more island there on the kind of a rounded island.
You're up at the top.
Yeah, up at the top next to the gray hatched area. I don't know who's moving the cursor, but.
Oh, I see where you're at. Yeah, am I doing that right?
Is this a pointer?
No, that's the microphone. Oh, okay.
But that kind of rounded bulbish kind of,
Yeah, further
Oh,
up,
thank you.
Further up.
a little further.
so this here area, we lost parking spots. In order to add these parking spots along here. And then in order to have this driveway there was also some swale up here. And so we lost some parking spots that were kind of tucked up in this area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Anyone? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Staff.
Don't have a whole lot. We have 2 new planners starting the 14th. I can't wait.
I bet.
It's been a long while.
Yeah. Carrie can't wait. No, she would never say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, good evening.
I feel really fortunate to have Nick folks supporting us, supporting planning during this time. They're good if you're looking for a land use consultant. So but it'll be nice to have our own, start growing a team on the 14th. They're pretty junior, so don't beat them up too bad, but they seem pretty tough. They can
Us?
handle it.
Okay.
We're usually pretty kind.
Yeah, we're lovable.
Yeah.
Let me repeat myself, Chair. No. Actually, Tanny's gonna come in and speak to them. TBD, talk about planning.
And then if they stay around, they'll, no, sorry.
Bob, don't do anything.
No, I was gonna be
Don't
good.
scare them.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, commissioners. Commissioner Allen?
I appreciate it. I've been in work groups that got very narrow and still had a lot of responsibility and tried to survive. I know these aren't easy times, so it says a lot to your fortitude. So thank you for sticking with it. And Carrie, thank you for helping us out.
And Chris Ann too, she's working her tail off.
Oh, I was including her.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Times are hard, yeah. Carrie Ann's included in that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, Chris Ann, David, and Carrie, thank you very much. Really appreciate everything you guys have done. I know tenacity has to be through the roof in order to get through everything, but it's greatly appreciated. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Ditto that.
Okay.
And come downtown on Saturday, we have the 19th annual cruise-in. Saturday, all day long, so come down, look for the beach cars.
Thank you all. You guys have put up with us. I mean, we are kind of a little grumpy sometimes, or sticklers with some things, and we get something set in our mind and we try to work it out. But thank you for sticking with us. We appreciate you all. Thanks for helping out. Thank you all. Yep.
Yes.
Is Mr. Minkoff still with us?
We lost him unless he's on the phone.
Did this in Boston?
He died.
I want to follow up on some comments Mr. Minkoff was saying in relation to the doing away with the marijuana zoning throughout the city. I was kind of thinking along the lines of what he was saying, that they should have, what's already there should have been left intact. So what's going to happen in November 2024? The voters going to have to decide whether they approve of the ban or not. If they reject the ban, then the situation is going to be, the code says marijuana isn't allowed anywhere in Troutdale. So then it's up to planning and council to decide where it goes. So if I'm a voter deciding whether I want the ban or not, I'm thinking, if I reject the ban, how do I know where it's going to be located? Maybe it's going to be located where I don't want it, or vice versa. Maybe it won't be allowed where I do want it. So I just think that was the wrong approach.
Which? The ordinance?
Yeah, to take it out entirely and have to go back and put it back in if the voters reject the ban.
Well, I don't know that we have a choice, because we have to match the ordinance, and it's not allowed in the ordinance. What I would anticipate would be is when this comes up, we will probably have something written that would be part of that ballot measure, as far as that's what will go into effect if the measure passed. That makes sense?
Yeah, maybe if they do that.
I think that would be the only way to do it, would be to have something to say, okay, if you vote yes for this, this is what it means, and if you vote no, this is what it means for you.
I've been doing a little research into this, where it's been done other places. There's a whole list on the OLCC website listing all the cities that have enacted bans. Some eastern Oregon
Mhm.
cities and counties have, done it on their own without voter approval, because they're allowed to, if their voters voted against 55% or more. One really interesting example I ran across, though, was in 91 passed in 2014. In 2016, the city of Sherwood put a ban before the voters, similar to what Troutdale is proposing, and it passed in Sherwood. In 2020, it was actually a citizen initiative to do away with the ban, and that passed in Sherwood. So now they have marijuana retailers in Sherwood. So they make it real difficult to get it back once you lose it. So I just want to make sure the voters know what's happening one way or the other, where it's going to be, and all that.
Well, and I also think what's difficult with this has been, when 91 passed, the rule was X. And then the states come in and said, okay, you don't have to be this far from a school. There's different applications now that have changed where they would be cited from what the original measure was. So, I think that's had an effect on things too.
You get away with parks, I think.
No.
Used to be, I thought that you used to have to be 1,000 people
Right.
parking.
But we've been told parks can go back in.
So the one on Stark Street is right next to it.
Yeah.
What was interesting about that Sherwood initiative also was that the citizens that wrote that, they specified in the measure itself where the retailers were allowed. So it was very clear to the voters
where they would be.
Yeah.
I think it's a polarizing issue, I think, for a lot of people in a lot of ways, and it's just something that you've got to have a reg for, and you've got to manage it. Don't know that there's an easy answer.
There never is.
Okay. Again, I want to apologize to Commissioner Minkoff for the audio issues that we had, but I want to welcome him and thank him along with you, Mr. Cottrell, and look forward to working with everybody this year. And thank you again for all the work that you guys do. And staff, you're the only staff that's left now. Everybody's gone. It's just you.
You're hanging in there.
Yeah. But appreciate all that you guys have done to just kind of keep the wheels on the machine here. And better times are ahead, certainly.
Absolutely.
And with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn for this
I move
evening.
that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all very much. Paul?
Yes.
I wouldn't say this very often, but I agree with you.
Suspended.
Yeah.
Because of our.
Okay, right.